Mr. Bevis is not a good episode. It's comedically forced, poorly paced, and lacks the depth of even the mediocre installments of the original Twilight Zone series. But there are a few notable details about it. This includes its connection to one of the show's best episodes, Time Enough at Last. I was able to review that one last year, so you can check out my thoughts there, but the character of James B.W. Bevis ties directly to Burgess Meredith's portrayal of Henry Bemis. Let me explain. Rod Serling loved Meredith's work so much after the success of Time Enough at Last that he wanted Burgess to star in a series he was developing especially for him. He wrote the pilot episode, but the star wasn't interested in doing another television series and turned it down. Serling then decided to rework the pilot as a standalone Twilight Zone episode, and Mr. Bevis is what we were left with. Swapping out the M for a V, the character is still a bumbling, harmless, and unfocused person. You can see where Meredith might have excelled in a few of the situations, but if the original script was very similar to this one, I'm not sure even Burgess himself could have saved it. This was one of producer Buck Houghton's least favorite episodes. In Mark Zickery's The Twilight Zone companion book, he was quoted about the installment. Quote, "Somehow it just didn't come together. It was apples and oranges. I didn't think there was any excitement or interest. You just wondered, why watch it?" End quote. Following the excellent usage of an angelic character in a passage for trumpet, Mr. Bevis continued that element with an attempt at a more comedic depiction of the archetype. James B.W. Bevis is a scatterbrained young man who's constantly late on his rent, getting fired from job after job, and just can't seem to hold his life together. However, he is well-intentioned, good-natured, and a kind soul. After getting fired, evicted, and watching his car roll into a wreck in the same day, Bevis ends up at a local bar where he's confronted by J. Hardy Hempstead. Hempstead is Bevis's new guardian angel and has been watching over his ancestors for centuries. He gives Bevis the chance to start the day over again, except this time, things will turn out more in his favor. The only catch is that certain things about James will be seen as altered by other people. Essentially, he'll be viewed as a whole new Bevis. Hempstead starts the day over, and while Bevis is respected by his landlord and boss, no one remembers the kind-hearted person he once was. The friendships he had formed with the local kids and neighbors no longer exist, and this leaves James to ponder what's truly important. William Asher was well known both before and after this for directing hundreds of episodes for comedy shows like I Love Lucy and Bewitched. It makes sense that they choose him for a script such as this one, but it obviously just wasn't a good fit for something like The Twilight Zone. Thus, Mr. Bevis would be his only credit for the show's run. Humor can work in the series from time to time, but when a whole episode is centered around it, it becomes a tough sell after hearing that music and seeing that logo. Speaking of which, this and the remaining Season 1 episodes were the only episodes in the first season that featured a different intro. We still haven't reached the show's most well-known theme, that starts in Season 2, but this one has a change in music and looks very different from what came before. It's characterized by a close-up of an eye closing, a black line appearing at the bottom of the screen, and a new, more basic logo. But with only a few installments left in Season 1, this changed pretty quickly. You can make an argument that this second Season 1 intro was a bit creepier with less of the dreamlike quality the original had, so that makes it even stranger to see it in front of an episode like Mr. Bevis. You can tell the cast is trying, but the material just wasn't working. Everyone feels off. It's like a Twilight Zone episode of The Twilight Zone if The Twilight Zone was supposed to be an early 1960s sitcom.
Are you serious?
The only thing that's missing is a laugh track. Even the effects don't really hold up. Usually, the crew was able to come up with a practical solution to fit the budget, and more often than not, it worked. Here, though, there's a scene where Hempstead walks through a glass door that was poorly put together and timed incorrectly, so they had to slow down the footage of the bottom layer of the film to make it match. In a better episode, this wouldn't stick out, but here, it's one of the only moments worth discussing. There is this disturbing clock that doesn't exactly hold up very well either, and they even use it as the image the credits play over, so there's that too. There's not much of a twist here. Anyone could see it coming from miles away, but Bevis convinces Hempstead to set things back to the way they were, and James lives his life happily as the clumsy, idiosyncratic underdog he used to be, except this time with a little help now and then from his guardian angel. Is this one of the worst episodes of The Twilight Zone? Maybe. I don't like using the word worst to describe anything about this show, but this one is definitely an outlier in a sea of great concepts, scripts, and productions. It's a rare miss. Perhaps it's best we leave Bevis with Butthead and leave this installment way in the back of the Twilight Zone.